Today we're going to be making some undies or briefs out of the Waimea Swim pattern. It's really easy to do. You'll just need a couple of small adjustments, which I will explain to you. In order to do this, you'll need to cut out some pieces. I am making a solid front Waimea Swim Bottom, so just regular briefs. If you would like to use the color block that is included in the Waimea pattern, you would use the regular front pieces and construct the front as it is in the pattern. I'm using the front liner, which is basically just the front as a solid piece. So you can choose which you'd like to do there. And if you're going to use the color block version, it's a great way to add some lace pieces into your undies. Just follow the pattern tutorial on how to attach all of those pieces. You'll also need the back piece, which is the same for the main pieces in the pattern. This is the main pattern piece, and I've just cut it on the fold. You will need your waistband pieces. Make sure that you cut along the edge. This is a piece that's also cut on the fold, and there's a line for cutting the high rise, and there's also a line for cutting the mid rise. So just make sure that you cut the correct piece there. And you'll also need some elastic for the leg openings. The pattern calls for 3/8 inch elastic. I have 1/4 inch elastic here, just because for everyday briefs, I prefer a lighter stretch around my legs versus swimwear. I prefer a tighter stretch around my legs. So you can use the 3/8 inch or customize, which is the wonderful thing about sewing. Now, the extra piece that you'll need is going to be a liner piece. You can fully line your briefs, or if you'd like, you can just have that little liner piece at the bottom without fully lining your entire undies. In order to make a liner piece, it's super easy. Just take your front piece and trace the bottom section right here. This is a 5-inch piece. I would recommend cutting between 5 and all the way up to 5 3/4, or maybe even 6 inches, depending on how big you want your liner piece and what size you're making. This is a size F with a 5-inch liner. I would maybe even go up to 5.5 for size F. So once you have traced and cut out the bottom section of your front piece, now you have your liner piece, and you will cut that on the fold. And so your liner piece will look like this. If you've chosen to use the color block front on your undies, you will follow those steps in the pattern first and attach your color block pieces. Take your front piece and lay it with right sides up on your table. Then bring over your back piece, lay it on top with right sides down. You're gonna line up this bottom edge. Now the front piece curves out at the bottom, and so the back piece does not have the additional curve out notch. So you will find that when you line them up, that front piece is going to have little dog ears sticking out, and that is correct. So just line them up like so. And the back piece also curves up just a tiny bit in the center, so you'll just want to make sure to pull that down and line up those raw edges. And then you'll bring over the lining piece that you made, and you'll line up with right sides facing down on top of that back piece. Pin them in place. And we're gonna stitch along this bottom edge using a 3/8 inch seam allowance and a stretch stitch.
Now we'll open everything up and lay it on the table with wrong sides facing up. Take the liner piece and pull it over toward the front piece, and it should line up exactly with the edges of that front piece. And you will notice that the seam is now fully enclosed in between the liner and the main pieces. Pin or clip the edges of the liner to the edges of the front piece, and we are going to baste those two edges in place. Now we'll use a basting stitch, which is a straight stitch with the longest stitch length, to stitch the sides of the liner to the sides of the front piece, right where we pinned.
Now we have our liner piece in place. We will line up the front and the back at the side seams with right sides together. We'll stitch those side seams using a stretch stitch or a serger. Isn't it going so quickly? Now we'll grab our leg elastic. At this point, you can attach your elastic loops to the leg openings. You will be stretching more in the back to make sure that the elastic cups your rear end, and stretch less in the front so that it's not uncomfortable. I prefer to attach my elastic freehand. I have made many undies, so I know what I like the stretch to feel like. So I'm just going to demonstrate how that would work.
Use a stretch stitch, or you can also use your serger on this step. I just happen to have my sewing machine out, so that's what I'll be using. Align the edge of the elastic with the edge of the fabric and on the wrong side. I'm just going to lengthen my stitch a little bit since it's an initial stitch and we'll be going over it again with an additional stitch. It can be a little bit longer for this round, and just stretch slightly as you go over the front part of the undies, and then once you get to the back you'll see that I stretch it even more. I'm just crossing over the side seam toward the back piece, and at this point I will begin stretching that elastic even more than I was on the front piece. Make sure you overlap the elastic when you get to the beginning where you started. Right here, I'll overlap by about a ½ inch. Now that the elastic is all attached, we will begin folding it over in order to encase that elastic and hide it between two layers of fabric. You can go around and fold and clip the whole thing as I'm doing now, or you can just fold as you top stitch if you're more experienced and feel comfortable doing that. Top stitch the elastic, we'll use a zigzag, twin needle, or you can use our cover stitch machine.
Openings have elastic, we will construct our waistband. So take the two waistband pieces and place them right sides together, we are going to clip or pin and stitch up these two short ends. Fold it in half, aligning the long edges and with wrong sides together. Since I used my sewing machine, I can open up this seam in order to have a more flat side seam. Now our band is ready to attach to the briefs. We'll find the center, front, and back of the top. Now we'll take the waistband and place it over the briefs. Align the two side seams of the waistband with the side seams on the briefs. Match up the front center of the band with the front center of the briefs. Same with the back. Okay. Now we'll stitch it into place. You'll need to stretch the band a little bit to attach it. Leave an opening in the back if you would like to insert some elastic into the band. I'll be basting my band first. You can baste it along with me or simply use a stretch stitch at this point. I'll be finishing off with my serger. You can also place additional pins or clips in between each section, which makes it easier to sew. You can do this before you start sewing, or you can do it like I just did. Once you get to the back, stop stitching before you get to the starting point where you began your stitching in order to leave an opening. Okay, so here is how our undies look at this point. If you'd like, you can insert some elastic into the waistband and then finish off stitching all the way around with a stretch stitch if you basted like I did. Or if you stretch stitched initially, just close up that opening with a stretch stitch. And then you are done. Great gift. I've given undies to all family members and they all love them. Enjoy!